So the number one thing that I ask a parent, like when they come to me, is do you want this more than your child?
We were taught to count our money, count the names beside our own, count the likes beneath the picture, count the rooms where we are known, count the praise, count our titles, count the trophies on our shelves. And we call it winning while we lose touch with ourselves. There's a quieter kind of victory no scoreboard can define, the goals we keep inside our hearts and the courage to always try. Success is not measured by a number, not a dollar sign or a prize, not the likes, not the friends, not the status in our eyes, not the things we have attained, not applause or being seen.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Emotional Algebra with Dr. E. Glad to have you here. And I'll just tell you now, I am going on a night of not a lot of sleep. So we're going to do our best here today, but I'm going to welcome in my favorite sidekick here, Tara. And Tara has some news. I am going to refer to myself as the launcher of new careers and evolution of living, because this has happened now for the second time with a podcast co-host.
How powerful for you. That's that's amazing. So I'll say thank you to you. Unfortunately, and fortunately, God put an opportunity in my hands that I just could not turn down. So I will be switching careers, which unfortunately will take me away from this platform for the most part, and at least on a regular basis. And I will be starting a new journey that I am super excited about. But yeah, it's been an honor to be here, and I love what you're doing, Eric. I love that you are helping people elevate people, because it's so hard. Life is not easy, especially when you go at it alone. And for all of the viewers out there that are working to better themselves, like, kudos to you. I've said it a million times. Not everybody does that. I think you're winning at the game of life, and it's just been an honor to be a very small part of what you're doing. So thank you.
And Tara, I got to thank you for being a part of the show. You really brought in a whole nother dimension in talking about a lot of these spiritual issues, the growth issues. We had a great interview with Sharda, the yogic doctor, who brought in some great information. And we've had a lot of really good, deep discussions that I really appreciated. So you've been a great addition, and you're going to be a great addition wherever you go. I salute and honor the way you live life. And again, your willingness to share those challenges you went through in your life. And life's not meant to be easy. It's meant to be a journey and an opportunity. And it's nice to have had you on that journey to really share that with our viewers and myself, and to get to know even a deeper side of you. We often don't have these discussions at our social gatherings. So it's been fun to have some of these discussions that we're sharing with the world. So it's been very cool.
Well, thank you. Right back at you. I mean, it's been great. And, yes, life is not easy, but it should be fun. And I think, that's a huge part of what you're doing, is like teaching people it doesn't have to be easy, but it doesn't have to be miserable. And when you have the right tools, challenges just look different. They look like opportunities. They don't look like obstacles. So kudos to you as well. Thank you.
Took the words right out of my mouth. So excellent. Well, we are here today, and the reason I really wanted to make sure we got this last episode in is to talk about something near and dear to your heart. And you teased it on our Brat Pack episode, and talked about it in a couple other situations. But I'll let you go ahead and introduce today's discussion that'll go far beyond just acting. We're going to go into sports and things, but go ahead and talk about what your experience has been and what you initiated.
Yeah, so I created a completely free platform called United Child Actors Network. And it was born from both of my daughters deciding they wanted to be child actors. And I was in broadcasting and then switched over into acting part-time, just as my daughter was growing up, because people were like, well, hey, you know how to read a teleprompter, you should try this. So I did. And what I quickly realized is that being an adult actor and the parent of a child actor were two completely different things. And like, I didn't really understand the paperwork, the rules on set. SAG-AFTRA has these, rightfully so, very stringent rules. And I felt like a fish out of water. And I also felt like I wasn't able to protect my children properly and also elevate them in the way that they should be based on what other parents knew or didn't know. So long story short, I took 10 to 15 years worth of knowledge being the parent of a child actor and put it onto this platform. And it has everything you would want to know. And the really cool thing about it that I love is that because I'm spiritual and because I saw mental health as such a challenge along our path, is that's woven into the program throughout. And it's really teaching you how to protect your child's mental health as they go through this entire process. And it doesn't just have to be acting, it can be travel ball or music or even academics. It's really across the board, because when your child gets into that elite level where very few other parents or children can understand, I find that community gets very, very small. And it's hard, like everybody can go to someone and say, oh my gosh, my child is going through fits at the age of 2 or 3. How do I do that? Well, there's books written on that. There's podcasts. There's ample information. But when you say, my child, I can't seem to figure out how to get my child's Coogan account set up or withdrawn once they're 18, how do I do that? There's really not a lot of information for that. Work permits, rules on set. So that's why I wanted to get that knowledge out there and kind of pull back the curtain so that people understood you have a community.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think community is such an important thing, and that's a lot of what we're trying to build here. That's a lot of what you in anything you do, you're often working on community, building community, and that's where even when I've talked about my work in Haiti so many times, the biggest thing to me to build a community is trust. And when you have a strong foundation of whether it's you as an organizer or having a location that people can go to or having a support group or having a phone tree or now texting tree or online tree, those things are so important to build community in many different areas, whether you're in acting as a parent or whether your kids are in sports or whether you're musicians. And I think, again, we want to look at, you're exactly right about the mental health and how do we support each other through these journeys, and especially how do we support our kids through these journeys. So let's kind of talk a little bit about some of those things. So let's say that your kid, you're approached by a parent, you said, my child has talent and I really want them get into acting, and I feel like this is going to change their life. And what are some of the things that you see in the questions? There's 2 here, Tara. What are some of the things you see in the questions where you see a parent that has a sincere interest in your kid, in their child? And where do you start to see the way they're asking the question that maybe the parent wants to look in the mirror a little bit, why they might help their child pursue it, but how does that parent find that balance?
So the number one thing that I ask a parent, like when they come to me, is, do you want this more than your child? And I really mean that from a heartfelt place, but they really have to do some soul searching. Like, is your child asking to do this, or are you asking your child to do this? Because for me, it was very much a child driven ship. And I was kind of like gripping on white knuckled, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And before long, I was homeschooling, and I'm like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, I felt like I was the one who was being drug along. And in my opinion, that's how it should be, because I constantly looked at both of my girls and said, are you still having fun? Do you still want to do this? Is this still a passion? And the minute they said no, you then had to discern as a parent, are they hitting a spurt where it's getting difficult and they need to push through? Are they being asked to grow as a person? Or are they asking to be a child at this moment? And man, that is razor thin. And sometimes I'm like, did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Like, And I thankfully can say, by listening to my child, both of them have one is going to be 16 and one is going to be 19. They have such fond memories of their
Mhm.
childhood. So I'm like, I was telling you before, when we started, I'm like, oh my God, like they don't hate me. They don't think they missed out on their childhood.
Mhm.
They both say I had the most unique, amazing childhood filled with such unique opportunities that allowed me to develop skills that most of my peers did not get. They were asked to be adults working in an adult environment
Mhm.
for years. We were back and forth to Los Angeles. We lived in Los Angeles for a minute. They were homeschooled. They met friends who are now superstars, so that's kind of cool to them, that it's like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, look at so and so, she's on the Tonight Show. Like, that's kind of
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
And yet neither one really says, I mean, one still, if like the opportunity came along, she'd be right back into acting.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, she's going to study to be a lawyer. So, you know what I mean? Like, it took them into paths and into directions that they both credit acting with.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
excuse me. So that's a long-winded answer to simply say, make sure your child wants to do this. And if they do, then you need to understand, okay, how do I safely get them into the environment?
Mhm.
Because acting, along with many other elite industries, you have some unsavories that can be in there. Um,
Mhm.
and you also want to make sure that you're protecting their mental health.
Right, right. So when you have those parents who you feel like they're really more seem to be in it for them than their child, do they really wanna hear that answer from you? That
Of
are
course not.
you I mean, have
No.
you seen that situation where you get that look
Yeah.
or expression? Yeah.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
what do you do when you run into that?
I mean, I can't parent them, right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
it's their life, their adventure. So I think the best thing I can do is point them to the resources that
Mhm.
I compiled and be there for them. Most of the time, unfortunately, I do hear back from them sometimes. Sometimes I don't. But
Mhm.
I do think they need to hear it,
Mhm.
because I also believe that God channels through me what needs to be said in any given moment, and whether that's support or allowing someone to look in a mirror, whatever it is.
Mhm.
I hope and pray that those words don't come out as criticism, but as love for
Yeah.
them and for their child. And I always present it as, I want to make sure that you're doing the best you can for your child, because as a fellow parent,
Mhm.
my God, that's all we want to do, right? Is just
Right.
make sure our kids are happy, healthy, thriving.
Yeah.
So I tell them, like, does your kid have any other interests? Do they like doing anything else? And
Mhm.
if they do, if it's horseback riding, if it's soccer, if it's baseball, if it's gymnastics, if it's playing instruments, if it's anything, if given the opportunity, would they do that over being on set? And if
Mhm.
the answer is yes, then okay, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't explore it. And
Mhm.
perhaps it's fun, it's a hobby, but I do think there's certain industries and certain sports and just certain avenues that can suck you in. And you
Mhm.
have to be very,
Right.
very careful and very discerning as a parent to know, like, is this something that my child wants to do full time? Because
Yeah.
my kids didn't do a whole lot else, like, yes, my youngest plays a million instruments, but that kind of fell in line with acting. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
singing, dancing, music, and acting, they all kind of go together. But like, she wasn't an equestrian. She wasn't,
Right.
like she didn't do a lot of the other things that her friends did. And even in the realm of like dancing, they can't go like the full dance route. They don't have that kind of time.
Mhm.
So if your kid is playing travel ball, like I see these travel ball parents and I'm like, whoa, they're at a
Yeah.
different place every weekend. And that's great if that's what the child wants to do, but
Mhm.
oftentimes too, it's a family decision, right? Because
Right.
you're traveling every weekend, you're at practices, so I think it's just having those open, honest conversations of, is this what we want to do? Do we want to make this commitment financially, emotionally,
Mhm.
physically, and
Mhm.
then revisit it. Come
Right.
back every 6 months. I would ask my kids, "You still having fun? You still good?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we would explore that answer.
And I think in that, I always often tell parents, you're preparing your child for the rest of their life, not the rest of yours. And
Absolutely.
sometimes when we talk about protecting our kids, I think honestly, when we look at it, are we protecting our kids sometimes from ourselves, our
Mm,
dreams, our wishes, our wants, our aspirations?
yeah.
And then I think it's not uncommon for parents who are you talked about the financial toll and sometimes obligations, whether it's you lived in Los Angeles or you're in travel ball and or your kids playing hockey and you're going all over or running, music, all the lessons and all that, that financial toll can often result in the parent taking on that martyr role. I've
Yep.
done this and this and this for you, and all I ask for you is to be the best at this. You don't have to work, you don't have to, school, you're getting that done, but this is going to be where you make your money one day. And I think that's where often parents do look for the repayment in ways, whether it's an elite athlete, they want to become a professional, or the actors that they expect, or the musicians that they expect to get some type of reimbursement or taken care of, or in some way, shape, or form. And we want to be very careful as parents to make sure that our kids have the freedom to live the life they want to have, not that we want to have. And I think that we've had kind of the luxury in some ways of shifting our culture from feeling like you often stayed close as families, so that as you got older, part of that deal was you were going to help take care of your parent in a way.
Hmm.
And while we do have the Oreo parenting, where you have some parents who are taking care of their parents and taking their care of their kids in ways, but I think also in this generation, we've also had a lot of parents who want to give their kids wings to be who they can be and travel and live where they want to live, and that we as the parents have our own lives. So that is a deep psychological issue. I think parents should really want to explore, and like you said, talk about it as a family. I think there are a lot of kids out there who feel afraid to be honest. I've heard of some parents that when their kids want to get out of their activity, their sport, their acting, sometimes the parents won't talk to them. Literally, they'll cut them off for a while, and I think that's very dangerous. And
Yeah.
that's a parent tantrum, to look at in that way. And
Yeah.
also, the message that it sends is conditional love. Now, if they're dropping out and they just don't wanna do anything with their life, there's a couple issues there. One, you wanna look at what is your kid burned out, and what role did you play in that burnout? Are
Mhm.
they figuring out their way and just taking a mental health break to recoup? Were they overscheduled a lot of their life? And or is their life taking another path? Because sometimes what I say is when people feel like their life has been determined for them, even as kids, that can carry on with them throughout their whole life, and they can just make their life go sideways instead of forward. And I
Mhm.
think what we want to look at is what do we want to understand about our kids, not about what we think they need, what they truly need to
Mhm.
really help them. I think you've had a good pulse on your kids throughout. And, and they've obviously they're doing well and they have their interests. They enjoyed their childhood and they had some tough times in childhood. And you help to moderate that and give them things outside of the family and outside of the house to find their identity. And
Yeah, and
that's good.
I don't want to make it sound like I'm a parent, I messed up, like for sure. And
Mhm,
hopefully I tried to learn from each one of those mess
mhm,
ups. But on the
mhm,
whole, yeah, I feel like they're good. And I think the reason why is because we were all on the same page. So everything you're saying is so spot on. And it's knowing your why.
mhm,
Why are we doing this? Are we
mhm,
doing this to become an Academy Award winning actress?
mhm.
That may be a goal internally for the child, but you have no control over that. So I always like to do goals that are within our realm of control to a certain degree, right? So for us, I always told them when they audition, you audition and you forget it. We're going outside, we're playing, we're swimming, we're biking. We don't talk about that audition anymore, because the way the process works, and equate this to whatever your child is in. But
Mhm.
it's like you audition and sometimes you'll never hear back. Sometimes you'll get a call back. Sometimes you'll get pinned. You'll be on hold. You have to, fly out for a chemistry read. And it's a several step process that can take many weeks, months. Sometimes it's swift, sometimes it's long.
Mhm.
My daughter got all the way up to Disney executives 4 times, did not land any of those roles. Those were all life changing roles. So you can imagine, like, mentally trying to sift through that scenario. It's difficult, right? But our whys were always, you are doing this to build confidence, to become
Mhm.
a better public speaker. It helps with your memorization. It will help you in school. It helps you speak to adults. Eye contact, giving you a bigger world view, because many of the stories that they were entrusted to tell were of cultures or experiences that they had not been a part of or heard of previously. So it allowed
Mhm.
us that conversation.
Mhm.
Um, just a myriad. I could go
Yeah.
on and on and on about the
Yeah.
positives. I could also go on and on and on about the negatives. And as a parent, it was like, oh my God, are they missing out on school and field trips and
Mhm.
prom and homecoming? And thankfully, like, I was always the one that was like, can we please go back to brick and mortar school? Like, because
Mhm.
I loved school. I loved high school in particular. And fortunately, my oldest got back her junior year. So she did get to experience homecoming, prom, all of that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, for me, that was important, right? Like, I didn't want them to miss out on that. And after COVID, it really did give us an opportunity to be like, okay, let's go back. Um, but she would have been fine if she missed out on that. Like, she
Mhm.
really would have been okay, because again, she was the one driving the ship.
Right.
Um, but I think it is important. It's very important to know your why, is the
Mhm.
whole reason why I'm saying this, because if
Yeah.
you know that, then you can always go back to it.
Right.
And there were mental breaks for us. There were times that we were like, we need to stop, pause,
Mhm.
and then let's revisit it again. It's important.
Yeah, and I think even again, looking at sports, acting, music, all those things is what happens in a lot of these situations is that so much of a child's determination of what success is comes from factors outside of them when they're immersed in this and they're not finding the balance like you were trying to introduce to your kids of walking away, leaving behind, knowing you did your best and feeling good about what you did. My wife's company, they did training, and after they do a presentation, they would say, what did you do well, what could you have done better,
Mhm.
and what will you change in the future? And those were the 3 questions that were their debrief questions, and that was 30 when she first started out in that career 30 some years ago, and I still remember those questions because I often ask myself that, and I know that so much of me growing up as wanting to excel at everything and being a recovering perfectionist, as you and I both talked about, is
Mhm.
so much of our culture did teach us to look for success outside of ourselves. And when you get into the elite athlete, the elite actor, actress, the elite musician, all these elite fields, even you look at people who are elite in their medicine, medical degrees, or all these other areas. What is your identity beyond that? And what happens when you don't have the adulation, the clients, the audiences anymore? Who are you without that? So being able to develop your sense of self beyond that, being able to develop friends who don't know you. And it's hard when you're in some of those very visible places to have friends that you don't know. Whereas, I feel like, we've been lucky to get to know Chris Singleton, who was, again, great baseball player, worked at ESPN and did all of his called World Series games. And what an awesome dude he is, and such an down to earth guy, a great friend. And he's got a very holistic view of life and a very grounded view of wanting to make a difference in the lives of others. And I think that's one thing that we want to help people to look at too. And what you've done is you've helped your kids to learn it's not just what you do within yourself, it's what you do to add to the benefit of the world.
Mm,
And what are you doing to make this world a better place? And you said what one of the things you like about what I do, and it's one of the things that I've tried to live by example to my daughter. I did not want to, I'd ask her, what are you doing for others? But a lot of it was I didn't want to keep forcing that on her, because then that takes away the joy of self-discovery.
mhm.
And I just wanted her to lead by example in all the things I do. And I love to do them. I don't do it because I
Yeah.
feel I have to. I do it because I love to. And that's another key that we're talking about here. And they've referred to: do something that you love and something that feeds your soul, not something you feel you have to do. Now, another little side is that if something that you love to do is a hobby, and your vocation is something that you're good at, that brings you an income, and you balance that out with something that you love to do, that can be a mitigating issue on that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Tara.
Well, I think it's important to understand for parents too, like, are you living vicariously through your child with some of that? Like, because I think some parents can be like, well, I could have been a great baseball star. I could have been this great gymnast. I could have been this great actor. And then they
Mhm,
have this child and they see themselves in their child and they're like, oh, it was
mhm,
just a hobby for me. But I mean, I now
mhm.
have the resources and the ability to help you succeed at this. And that's fantastic. And that's great. And if you're able to do that, that's awesome. But, you know, I can talk a big game here and say, like, oh, I did all of this great stuff for my kids and blah, blah, blah. I had some massive pitfalls in which I had to like stop and reset, because when I first got into the acting industry and my kids started having big success very quickly, it became my whole world. I became obsessed with it, which is part of the full circle of why I created United Child Actors Network, because I was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? I was
Mhm,
on all of the platforms. I was trying to figure out who booked this, who got this, how can I, which coach do I need, which headshot
mhm,
photographer do I need to it? And it was almost like I had to shake myself and be like,
mhm,
whoa,
mhm,
pause, stop. What are you
mhm.
doing? And it can be so easy to get sucked into my child is the next best thing. And,
Right.
and they might be, you know what I mean? Like, they may have been put on this earth to do that thing, and good for you for giving them the ability to do it.
Mhm.
But they may not be put on this earth to do that thing. And
Yeah.
you as the parent have to be open to that as well. Like, I truly believed, I was like, oh my God, my oldest daughter, her first audition, it's like she almost booked the role of a lifetime. It was her first audition and she had just turned 5. So I
Mhm,
was like, oh, God gave you something that,
mhm,
like, this is for real.
mhm.
And she had a wonderful career, and good for her. But again, life has kind of done its thing, right? And
Mhm.
it's shifted and it's morphed. And it's been such a beautiful journey to watch how that experience that I thought was one thing when she was younger, to see how it actually prepared her for
Mhm.
something that I didn't see was coming. And it's such a cool transformative experience if you can just watch it and trust and know that, like, this is all unfolding. It may be that your kid getting cut from that elite team that he or she dreamed of for years is
Mhm.
actually building the thick skin that they're going to need for
Right.
something that you don't even know is coming down the road, but it's preparing them. And I think
Yeah.
if you kind of look at life that way, in that roadmap, instead of like, this is our dream, and if they don't get this,
Right.
then we're a failure. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, 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 no. Every single step that they take, every fall, every
Mhm.
rise, it's all meant for a bigger picture that I think is beautiful when you're able to look at life that way.
Yeah.
So hard when you fall. And
Yeah.
it's like, I wanted that. My kid wanted that. They're crying, they're upset. They're like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too hard.
Yeah.
And that's where you get back to that razor thin line of, do they need a break? Do we persevere? And that's just, man, it's a judgment call from listening to your
It's the
child,
pain that
knowing your
says
child,
now
going back
feel.
to your why.
It's in the truth
Hey, viewers,
I
our episode ran a little
embrace
long, so
when
we
there's
decided to
something
split
I
into 2
must heal.
episodes. So stay tuned for the next episode to pick up where we left off. And until next time,
success is not measured by a number. With courage, we begin again. Where life challenges us is where success is truly found. Within our journey through emotion, where our lessons are firmly bound. Failure and shame aren't proof you're broken. They are teachers at the door. They say slow down, something's here you haven't learned or loved before. Feeling what's within is braver